first of all, when I start, what goes in my corner? -2, right? So that's the first thing you gotta remember. What makes that 0? Remember, basically the opposite, right? And then I got a 1 for the x cubed, but what's missing? X squared, so I gotta put a 0, right? Wendy and Ozer? You're not looking at your phone, right? I was talking. You were just daydreaming. All right, so we got to put that 0 in. Make our line. Then what do we do with that 1? Drop it below the line, right? So if you need to draw a little arrow here to remind you to drop it below there, that's okay. Every now and then I get kids who'll put the 1 right there. And then they like add those or something first, okay? You drop the 1 below, now you multiply. -2 times 1, you add those. Multiply those, add these. Multiply these, and then add. That's my remainder, okay? So my answer then is x to the what? Second. 1 less than the original. Minus 2x plus 1, and my remainder is a +3, so I put +3 over x plus 2. Okay? So that's the quick shorthand way of long division. We call it synthetic division. Okay? Synthetic substitution is when they tell me what number to put in the corner. We don't do the opposite there. We just make it a 5 and a -1. And all we're looking for is the remainder number. Okay? You don't have to write this all out. It'd just be like the 3. For this one, if we were doing synthetic substitution, the answer would be the 3. Okay? So I want to do, I'm going to run out of room here. So let me do this. I don't need this anymore. You don't worry about that stuff. I'm going to get rid of it. All right, so I'm going to put a 5. Let's change the colors here. And I got a 1. There's the x squared. I'm missing the x. I got to put a 0 there, and then the constant. 5 times 1 is 5, 8. 5 times 8 is 40, 40. 5 times 40 is 200, 194. That's the answer. That's all you do. That quick and easy. For this one, we do the same thing. -1, let's change that color. All right, and then we put the same thing. 1, 3, 0, -6. Drop the 1, and do the same thing. -1 times 1, -1 times 2, -1 times -2. So -4 is the answer. Okay? So that's all we were doing, right? Over the weekend. So we started at 20, right? So what I gave you, 20, 28, even, Scott, and then 48. So number 20, once you do synthetics, you're going to put -5 in the little corner, and then you have to add 2 zeros on the end for the x and the constant. So if you only added 1 0, you missed it. Right, Sydney? So the answer is x cubed plus x squared plus x minus 5 plus 25 over x plus 5. For 22, you don't have to add anything. Put a +2 in your corner, and you get 2x plus 7 minus 6 over x minus 2. For 24, you put -1 in the corner. The 4, 5, and 1 didn't have to add anything. And you get 4x plus 1. You got a 0 for the remainder. You have to do anything with that remainder. Number 26, substitute negative 1 in, you get negative 6. For 28, put 4/5 in. You got to add a 0 for the x, you get 0. Anybody need to see any of those? Okay, the last one, 48, you have to put 1 in the corner. I would use synthetic division. And then you didn't have to add anything. It had the cube, the square, the x, and the constant. And you get, it just said divide, so, you could do either way, but I would have done synthetic. You get 6x squared minus 8x plus 2, and then the remainder is negative 2. So put minus 2 over x minus 1 for 48. Okay? So long division and synthetic division for that section, and synthetic substitution. Pretty easy stuff, I think. But I think everything's easy, right? Yeah. It is, yeah. Just got to stay focused. You can't daydream, you can't be on your phone, you can't be listening to something instead of listening to me. Okay? Today, moving on. Okay? How do I factor? What's always the first thing you do when you factor? Look for a what? Common factor, GCF, which is 3. What goes in the parentheses? Minus 2y, right? What's that called? Number 2 on our list. What kind of numbers or terms are those 2 terms? What do we call this? An exponent. What do we usually say? A to the second or a squared? There's a difference of squares. Minus, right? 2 perfect squares minus. So you do this when you factor. The square root of x or a squared. Square root of b squared. Then what? Anybody remember? Minus and a plus. One of each, right? Okay? It says find each, meaning you got to do what? Boy, that's a multiplication problem, right? X times x, x times 3, 1 time, or negative 1 times x, negative 1 times 3. X squared plus 2x minus 3, right? Going from here to here would be the factoring part. Going from here to here is the multiplication part. These are the 2 factors. Okay? You guys know how to do that stuff, right? You should. All right? So we're going to use the factor theorem to determine factors of a polynomial. And we're going to factor sum and difference of 2 cubes, which is number 3 on our list of factors. Which is the next slide, I think I put. No, maybe not. It's in here somewhere. I got that list for the steps for factoring. Okay. If a number is divided by any of its factors, the remainder is 0. Like, what's 6 divided by 3? 2, right? Divided, I said. Okay. There's no remainder, right? Because 2 times 3 is 6. What's 20 divided by 4? 5. Because 5 times 4 is 20, right? There's no remainder. That means 5 and 4 are factors of 20, right? Likewise, if a polynomial is divided by any of its factors, the remainder is 0. Okay? The remainder theorem states that if a polynomial is divided by x minus a binomial, the remainder is the value of the function at a. So if x minus a, this binomial, is a factor of this polynomial, then p of a would be 0. Okay? All right? Since p of 1 is 0 for this problem, that means x minus 1 is a factor. Okay? We can use synthetic division to figure that out. If I put what in the corner? to divide this into that. Positive 1, right? What goes in place of the x squared? A 1. What's missing? An x. So I got to put the 0 and then the negative 1. You with me? We're just doing what we did last night, or whenever you did it, this morning or Friday, whenever. Then you go 1 times 1 is 1, and 0 plus 1 is 1, and 1 times 1 is 1, and what's the remainder? 0. If you get a 0 there, when you're doing synthetic division, that means this is a factor of that. That's what that's saying. Okay? So, is x plus 1 a factor of that? What do I put in my corner? Negative 1, right? So I set it up like that, right? Drop the 1. What's negative 1 times 1? Negative 1. What's a negative 3 plus a negative 1? Negative 4. What's a negative 1 times 4? I'm sorry. Negative 1 times negative 4. 4. What's 1 plus 4? 5. Is that a factor of that? No. Because that was not a what? 0. So, is that an easy type of problem? Yeah. I told you it's easy, right? You just got to start believing. Okay. What do I put in this box? Negative 2. So I set it up like that. Had to add the 0 for what? The x squared didn't show up, did it? So we got to add 0. Okay, so we start going. What's negative 2 times 3?
Negative 6.
Negative 6. What's 6 plus negative 6?
0.
0. What's negative 2 times 0?
0.
What's 0 plus 0?
0.
0. What's negative 2 times 0?
0.
0. What's negative 5 plus 0? Negative 5. What's negative 2 times negative 5?
10.
Positive 10. What's negative 10 plus 10?
0.
0. Is it a factor?
Yes.
Yes. Simple. Okay, so what we're looking for is a 0 there in that last number. If you get any other number, you say, no, it's not a factor. That's one type of problem you're doing. Get it? Got it?
Good.
Good. Look good, feel good?
No.
You're good. All right, so what do I do? Everyone understand why?
Yeah.
What do I put down?
4. Negative 2. 5.
What's negative 2 times 4?
Negative 8.
What's negative 2 times negative 10?
20.
Yes or no?
No.
No. You good on that type of problem? Questions? Did I mess up? Here?
Yeah.
No. Remember, we always add. We multiply and then we add. Multiply, add. Synthetic we add, long division we subtract, right? All right, there's our list of steps for factoring again. Okay, today we're going to do this one. We haven't done that one yet. It's really easy. And we're going to do this, which we've done a little bit already anyway. Okay, those are the two we're doing. So, this has 4 terms. So what type is it? Grouping. All right, what I mean by grouping is I mean putting in parentheses. Right, Olivia? If this third term has a minus in front of it, like this one, put it inside the group. Just put a little plus sign between the two groups. All right, what's number 1 always when we factor? GCF. So we do that for each group. What's the GCF for the first group?
X squared.
X squared. Divide x squared into x cubed.
X.
Negative x squared divided by x squared?
1.
Negative 1. Right? Now, you You see this minus sign there? If there's a minus sign there, when we're doing grouping, you always put a minus sign here. Okay? And then again, what's the GCF between 25x and 25? 25, right? What's a negative 25x divided by a negative 25? X. What's a positive 25 divided by a negative 25? Minus 1. Are those the same?
Yeah.
Is that what we want to happen?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So that's one of my factors, which we did it already here. All right. There's that x. That's where we're at. So x minus 1 is one of my factors. And my other factor is that x squared minus 25. But this isn't finished because what's this called? Those are both perfect squares. Yeah, a minus between them. So what's the square root of x squared? X. What's the square of 25?
5.
And then one's a
Negative.
negative and a
Positive.
positive. So we had to finish it up like a factor tree, right? This became these two, but this one became those two, you know. Okay? That's factoring by grouping. All right, you can check, you know, I don't know if it says it on here or not. I guess not. But it says here, use the table feature of your calculator to compare the original expression and the factored form. So what they did is at the y equals button, they put in the original problem, and then they put in what they factored, and then instead of graphing it, they just hit the table menu, second graph, and what do you notice about both columns here? They're the same. That means that these two are what? The same. That means you factored it correctly. You don't have to do that for me, but that's something you could do if you want to check to see if you're right. Okay? All right, you guys try that one, please. Got 4 terms, so we're going to group them. Start. Keep going.
I work now in
Welcome. Plus and minus between. Factors mean times, right? Factors mean times, right?
Yeah.
All right, you guys are looking good, the ones I got to check. We're gonna group any GCF for all four of them. Did you check that first? You always check that? All right, so sometimes, right in the beginning, there's a GCF that you can pull out of all four of them to make it easier for you. So always look for that. Don't forget about them. But there isn't, so we're going to group. There's a negative again in front of the 9, so we'll put it inside our group. That's the only time you put that plus in there, right? Once we're done, we're just got, something times something. X squared again is my GCF. I get x minus 3. Since that's a negative 9 GCF, that's an x minus, whoops, not 3, sorry, 2. That should be a 2, right? Why don't you guys fix it right away? Okay, so what's my one common factor? X minus 2. My other one's x squared minus 9. Is it finished? No, it's one of those difference of squares again, so I gotta finish up. Square root of x squared is x, 9 is 3, 1's plus, 1's minus, doesn't matter which one's which, just one of each. Okay? Everly, did that make sense? You forgot your negative, I think, when you wrote it. In front of that 9. I just couldn't see it, it was really light. Again, that's just the check. All right, here's another one. I'll do it real quick, see if it works. Sometimes it doesn't always work for us. X squared, there was no GCF, it looks, so 2 goes into all 3 of those, but no 2 into that one. And then it's 2x plus 1. All right, 2x cubed divided by x squared is 2x, x squared divided by x squared is 1. Here was a plus, so I don't have to worry about that minus sign. So the plus goes there. What goes into those two? 4. 8x divided by 4. 4 divided by 4. Are those the same? Yeah, that's what I want to happen, right? So 2x plus 1 and then x squared plus 4. I got to finish, right? I got to break that down, right? No! Why not? They are perfect squares. What's between them? Plus. What must be between those to go further?
Negative.
Minus, right? It's got to be a difference of 2 squares, right? So we're done there. We good on that type? Grouping? All right, let's look at the sum or difference of cubes. All right, cubes is to the 3rd power. Numbers like 1. What's 1 times 1 times 1? 1, so 1's a cube. What's 2 times 2 times 2? 8. 8's a cube. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27's a cube. 4 times 4 is 16 times 4 is 64. Okay, if you're not sure, your calculator, if you go to math right here, 2nd button, alpha, math button, number 4. That's the cube root button. So hit 4, 125, let's say. That's a perfect cube. That's 5 times 5 times 5. Okay? So if you're not sure something's a perfect cube or not, hit math. Number 4, there's that cube root symbol. Or you could go to the 1/3 power for cube root. But you got to put it in parentheses. All right, cube root is the 1/3 power. Square root is the 1/2 power. Okay, you can't remember where to find your cube root. Those of you that have that different one, you could hit the 3. There's like a button on your other type of calculator. It's got like a Y. I think it looks like this. Or it looks like this. Something like that. If you put a 3 in first, then hit that and put the number, Hit enter, it'll do it for you. Which one is it, Zach? Mhm. That's it. Yeah, there's an X there, right? So it's not even, it doesn't have anything here. It just has that. Okay? If you want to check. So you have to put a 3, then that, and then the number, and it'll do cube root. That's telling the calculator that right there is a 3. If you wanted the fourth root, you put a 4. Anyway, if you know these are perfect cubes, you take the cube root of both. Cube root of A cubed is A, cube root of B cubed is B. Those match. These match, always. It's minus, between the A and the B or whatever they are, is a minus. It's a plus, is a plus, okay? Then you take this first term here, and you square it to get that one. So if that's, if that's a 4, then that's a 16. If this is an A squared, that's an A to the 4th. You just square it. If that's a 3A, then this is 9A squared. Okay? This symbol here and this symbol, these two are always opposite. So this middle one is always opposite of the original here. Original, those two are the same, but this middle one's always opposite of it. And then you just multiply these two things. If that's a A and that's a 2, then that's a 2A right there. If this is a 3A and that's a 6, then that's an 18A. You just multiply to get that middle one. This one is always addition. And then you take the second one and square it. So that's a 6, that's a 36. If that's a 2y, that's a 4y squared. And you're done. So the procedure is the same for everyone once you recognize that it is one of those. Okay? So I'm telling you, those are both perfect cubes. So you do the binomial, 2-term, and a trinomial, 3-term, set of parentheses. I just told you the cube root of 125 was what? 5. What's the cube root of d cubed? D. Minus or plus? Minus. Those always match. What's the cube root of 8? 2. Take this first term and square it. What's 5d times 5d? 25d squared. What did I tell you about this sign in the middle? Opposites. The middle is always this times this. What's 5d times 2? 10d. I told you this one was always addition, right? And then you square this. What's 2 squared? 4. That's your answer. Okay? You're done. There's no 95% of the time, there's not more that you can do after this.
So when you said multiply the 5d and the 2,
That's the middle. That gives
so
you
you
this.
just ignore the minus?
Yeah, these, you just always know that middle is always opposite of that.
Okay.
Olivia?
How did you get the 2 in the first part? If I be minus the 2?
You took the cube root of this and the cube root of that to get those two. Okay? You okay to go to the next one? All right. Is there a GCF?
Yeah.
What is it? 4x. So always look for that first. I think they did it for us. Yeah. And then guess what? These are both perfect cubes. So what's the cube root of x cubed? X. Cube root of 27? No. 3. What's between them? Plus. What do I do to this to get the first term? Square it. So what's x times x? Squared. So that's a plus. What's the middle? Minus. Very good. How do I get the middle? multiply, what's x times 3? 3x. Oh, there it is, x times 3, 3x. And then what do I do with this one to get the last one? Square it. It's always plus, no matter what, that's plus. What's 3 squared? 9. So this one had a GCF we had to pull out first. Always look for that, right? Every time we should look for that when we're factoring. Is there a GCF? Are these perfect cubes? Yeah. Any exponent to a multiple of 3 power is a perfect cube. So 3rd power, 6th power, 9th power, 12th power. Okay? So what's the cube root of 8? 2. What's the cube root of that?
Z squared.
Yeah, you just divide 6 by 3. Yeah. You take the cube root of a variable to a power, just divide that power, that exponent, by 3. So there's our 2 plus z squared. What do I do with the 2? Okay, what do I do with the 2 to start the next part? Squared. What's 2 squared? 4. What's in front of my middle one? Minus. Good. So it should be 4 minus. How do I get the middle? Multiply. What's 2 times z squared? 2z squared. Simple, right? Third term's always what? Plus. And what's z squared squared? Or z squared times z squared? Yeah, z to the 4th. Okay? Those aren't too bad either once you practice a few. They're all the same. Always look for a GCF first, though. That's it for the day. There we have to take what out first? 2x squared, right? There you go. Scott. So you don't have to do extra this time. That's all right. Good extra practice for you doesn't hurt, does it?
By the way, the Z squared on that last the last album we did.
It wasn't?
No, they didn't have the square.
You forgot it?
Next page, right?
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Typo.
I mean,
Good catch,
it's not
Zach.
a big problem.
Good catch.